And when you talk about young kids, for example, it doesn't necessarily have to be like idolizing somebody who is not a pro athlete. It could be their parent. But I think for them, seeing that role model, seeing how hard they work, what they do, to inspire other people, you can make an impact in so many ways.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 196 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. 196 episodes. We are getting so close to 200. I think I have an idea. And actually, no, I think this is going to be too close. I think even with taking this maternity time off, recording this right now in the middle of May, I can't tell you that I would be able to leave it this close. I think I will be recording episodes before this one comes out, but I think I have a guest for us in mind for episode 200. So stay tuned for that one. If this is your first time listening, welcome. My name is Tina Muir. I'm excited to get to know you. You can find me on all the social media channels. Actually, I'm not on TikTok. Sorry, I'm not a cool kid enough to do that. I generally don't tend to follow the trends. I never did Snapchat, but you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You obviously have this podcast. And I actually have blog posts coming out all this time that I am away. So you can be listening, you can be reading blog posts every Monday that do come out. And I've really worked hard to make sure that I could give you things and provide social media posts, even though I am away and not really around. I have my assistant, Amber, who is wonderful, who is helping me out during this time by actually putting them out into the world. But I spent a lot of time before I left for my maternity, making sure that I had lots of things I was writing about. I had apparently had a lot to say. Now, if this is your first time, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. You may want to start with last week's episode if you are a new listener, especially if you are a woman. Last week's episode was with Professor Maya, and it was so powerful. This woman I heard her on a different podcast, and I was blown away by her message. It just really hit me hard and made me think differently. I'm not sure how often we actually feel that, where a podcast episode just speaks to you and you start changing your actions from the moment you hear it. And that is what happened to me when I listened to Professor Maya on a different podcast. I started realizing how much I was apologizing for things, how much I was saying just and maybe I'm wrong, but, or sorry, but, and just apologizing constantly for things that didn't need to be apologized for. So if you are a woman and you know that you tend to apologize a lot or say just or maybe or I could be wrong, but all those kind of things, be sure you go back and listen to that one. It's a really, really good one. Now, today I have such a beautiful human being on the show, and I'm really excited for you to get to know her. If you haven't already heard her on other podcasts or seen her in other places, this woman is just one of a kind. She's so special and just such a big heart. In the professional running scene, it can be difficult to come across people who genuinely want the best for everyone and are just, got that fire and that fight, but still just care so much about everyone. And Aliphine Tuliamuk is definitely that person. I am excited for you to get to know her. I had the fortune of getting to know her about 4 or 5 years ago, and she still remembered it really well, which you will get to hear. And I think this episode is going to be just the episode that you fall in love with her if you have not already, because she's just a special person. Oh, and by the way, she won the US marathon trials earlier this year. Even though the Olympics are not happening this year, she will be going next year, but she won the trials, has had just a great year, and I'm looking forward to a future of a lot of successful races for her. Now, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, and then we will be right to the episode with Aliphine. Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Tracksmith is a Boston-based brand led by a group of runners who are committed to making classically stylish, cutting-edge apparel. They have one simple goal: craft the most considered products on the market for runners, dedicated to the personal pursuit of excellence. I've seen you guys out there, how much you're committing yourselves, and even now we have the heat in there. We don't know the situation with races this fall. There are so many things working against us right now, but those of you who are out there, even if it's not as much as you want to, but you're getting yourself out there, especially when you're not motivated to do so, when you're struggling with motivation, I am so inspired by you all. So thank you so much for being an inspiration to me, but also that you are who Tracksmith is speaking to. You're the people that they put so much hard work and effort into making these products for. Tracksmith only works with the finest materials, from merino wool in their training tops to a unique nylon knit that's sourced from the best Italian mills for their running shorts. All of their garments feature details that let you focus on what matters the most to you, which is getting your training in, doing the best that you can with the situation that you are in, and just crushing it as you already are. I have loved seeing you guys in your Tracksmith apparel that you have purchased because I recommended it. That means so much to me. It really is wonderful for me to see that you purchased something because I recommended it and you're enjoying it and loving it. And once again, I feel that relief that you're like, you love it too, because when I really commit to a brand, I believe in it. I do not take relationships and partnerships with brands lightly. I really cater to my morals and I think about these brands heavily before I decide to work with them. So it means a lot to me. Now, friends, if you've never purchased Tracksmith items before, you can get 15% off your first order by going to tracksmith.com/Tina Muir. That's tracksmith.com/TINAMUIR to get 15% off your order with code TINA. Or you can also go to tinamuir.com/Tracksmith and I will show you some of my favorite items that I have really been enjoying. Now, the Van Cortlandt shorts are another thing I haven't mentioned yet, which are these strike the ideal balance between race-ready function and just common good taste. They fall in at a 2.5-inch inseam, which is a nice sweet spot for most of us, and they're made from a lightweight and antimicrobial fabric. The shorts are a simple, modern take on a running classic. Now, my friends, I'm going to remind you one more time, go to tracksmith.com/Tina Muir, enter code TINA to get 15% off your first purchase. Aliphine, I am so excited to bring you on the Running for Real podcast. A little bit embarrassed with myself that I haven't had you on yet, but thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. I don't know. I remember seeing your podcast, the very first time when podcast came out, and I'm like, what is this? I never really paid attention to it. But now that I've done a lot of them, I kind of know what it is.
Yeah, you've certainly done your rounds.
I have, yes.
I hope you can forgive me for not having you on yet. But as I just told you a minute ago, I don't tend to chase news stories. And I actually don't have that many elite runners on in general because I try and make the topics a bit different. But I have been thinking about you for a while, and not just because of what happened at the 2020 trials, but once I heard you on the Clean Sport podcast, I just was like, oh, I need everyone to get to know her more because you just came across just so beautifully, and it just lined up perfectly with this impression I'd had of you when we first met in 2015, which, us talking a few minutes before, you actually remember quite a lot about it. You even remembered that it was the week before my wedding, which is amazing. But yeah, we were both at Bix 7, which is a race I wouldn't imagine too many people listening have done. A very tough race. There's a ginormous hill. I don't know if you remember that at the beginning.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
One of those races you have to practically tiptoe up to get to the top. And then it's up and down from there. But I remember so clearly being blown away by your kindness. Honestly, partly your Americanness. You were so kind of just, I don't know how to describe it really. I guess when I'd had interactions with other athletes who had come from Kenya, they kind of, kept themselves to themselves, were very, maybe it was the language barrier, but it just seemed like, everyone had their group and people were kind of staying together, whereas you had just welcomed me into this little group of people, which was Caroline Rotich, Diane Nakiri. I think there may have been a few other people there. Pat Rizzo was there. And I remember thinking wow, she is just making me feel so welcome. And you just were so sweet and kind. And I just absolutely loved you. And I remember cooling down with you, and it was just an amazing experience. And so hearing you on that Clean Sport podcast just brought all of that back to me. And I knew I had to have you back on the show here. So that's my like over the top gushing about you on this podcast. But I'll stop embarrassing you now and we can get to the episode. But I don't think we've seen each other since, which has been 5 years. So somehow we've dodged each other at the races. But I'm hoping we can break that sometime soon. And I'm glad we get to catch up here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I remember a lot of things. I remember that was the week before your wedding. I remember your then fiance. I remember, like asking questions about his coaching because he was coaching some college. Now, was that Ohio or
where was in Kentucky at the time? Now, yeah.
Okay, at the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I remember asking all those questions. So now I don't forget people that often, Tina. You definitely made an impression, and I remember. And of course, I think again, like I remember even telling you, like, oh, just keep talking. I love your accent.
Yes, you did. Yes. And I think I probably said the same thing back to you. Because, yeah, I mean, you and I by now we're so used to American accents, but it's always nice to kind of hear different cultures and get to hear different accents that aren't American, even though there's so many different types of American ones we can constantly be learning from. But it is nice. And I actually want to go over later a few of the things that you and I may have experienced that others listening and other podcasts you've been on wouldn't think to ask because they haven't been in the same experience that you and I have of coming and moving to a new country. So we'll get to that in a minute. That being said, I'm not going to go over the usual points. Your story has been covered a lot. Clean Sport Collective, Morning Shakeout, Citius Mag, I'll have another. There's plenty for people to go back and listen to. As I've said, my favorite was the Clean Sport Collective, which focused more on you as a person. So I'm not going to go over the main points, but I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, asking you some things. So born in Posoy, is that how you say that?
Yeah, Posoy.
Posoy? Okay, which is in the highlands of West Pokot County, Kenya. Now, you've said in many other places that you wanted to pursue your running goals and a college education. But was that quite a radical decision for someone from West Pokot County to decide I want to really go after my college education? Or was that something that quite a lot of people strive to do, but maybe not everyone gets the opportunity?
Oh, no, I mean, like, especially at the time, it wasn't something that a lot of people strive to do. Like, I think I've mentioned a lot of times that our village is very small. Education is something that is very new, especially at the time. And so, like, at the time, a lot, not very many people were able, like, they didn't even have the opportunities to make it to college, or let alone college, high school. A lot of kids, especially the girls, didn't make it to high school. And so, like, dreaming of college was, like, so different. I remember some of the people, like, my teachers who, like, graduated, like, not too, like, a few years ahead of us, maybe, like, they were just coming out of college when we were, say, like, 3rd, 4th grade. Mm-hmm. We thought they were the highest, like, they had, like attained the highest you can go in terms of education, yet they only went to, like, a 2-year community college. And so for me, like, I don't know, like, going to college and pursuing running wasn't something that I wanted to do right away. It is something that developed, as I traveled more, I went away from home and I saw new things, saw new environment, and saw how other people did things. And so these new goals kind of evolved. But when I was pretty young, I mean, I don't even know if school was something that I cared about. Like, you grow up in this community where, like, school is very foreign. And, like, your mind is just thinking about, growing up, maybe getting married, maybe having your own family. And so, yeah, like, but then you travel and then you kind of evolve from there.
For sure.
And then I learned about running and, was able to travel a little bit. And in 2005, represented Kenya in World Cross Country and went to France. And that really, like, like, at that point, I was like, okay, I really want to do this. I want to travel more. I want to see more things,
Yeah. No, and I think that's good. And did you know from that moment in France that you wanted it to be in the US, or did you consider other countries as well?
No, actually, I didn't know about the US until 2008. Interestingly, I came here in 2009, but I didn't know about coming to the US or even, like, scholarships until, like, probably like right around fall of 2008. And that was when I was getting ready to graduate from high school. And, a distant relative of mine who had nurtured me from when I was young. And, he's even the main reason why I ran, for long and stuff. And I focused on my school. He came to our school because we went to school for like 3 months straight without going home because it was a boarding school. And so he came to visit us, and I was there with one of his daughters. And, he told me about these athletic scholarships in America. And he said, if you get good grades out of high school, you could apply for a scholarship and go to college in America and continue running. And in that moment, I was like, that is exactly what I want to do. So, and that must have been like, August, September of 2008. That was the first time I heard about America.
Wow. Yeah. And how did you specify from there? Like, there's thousands of universities in the US. And I'd imagine once you got to the level where you could apply and could be considered, there were a lot of universities who were either reaching out to you because they were interested, reaching out to someone in your community because they were interested. Like, how did you decide which one to go to?
Yeah, I feel like things or like my life has happened like this fate, I guess, because so when I graduated from high school, the day that our results came out, so what happens in Kenya is we have a standardized test and it takes about 3 months to come out. And our results, so we had our last exam on at the beginning of November, and the results came out at the beginning of March of 2009. And that same day, somebody who had gone to Iowa State and worked with Athletics Kenya happened to be in our village. And so he's also he works with Athletics Kenya. He's he came there, I think he was sort of he represents a management, and he was there to recruit some athletes, professional athletes, to be part of his management. And then it so happened that we started having a conversation, and I told him that I had just, got my results from, high school, and I passed, and I have a vision of wanting to run in American colleges. And he was a former student athlete at Iowa State, and he was like, I know of a perfect school you could go to. And he was also when he was in the team in Iowa State, Corey Amos, my former Iowa State coach, was teammates with him. So then he just contacted Corey, and Corey got in touch with me. And then after that, I went to a training camp, and, a few schools sought after me, but I already had made up my mind that I was going to Iowa State, just like that.
Wow.
And so I feel like not just that alone, a lot of things in my life have happened like that. Things just happen at the right time. I happen to be in the right place at the right time, and things just happen.
See, I see that as good things happen to good people, in that, yes, things seem to line up. And I've talked to friends about this in the past, about how it always feels like things can fall into your lap or fall into people's laps, like you said, just at the right time. But I honestly feel that's because you and you being a perfect example, put so much good out into the world that it just kind of comes back to you. So I'm not surprised to hear that whatsoever. And arriving in the US, let's just jump ahead to that. I obviously can understand this experience because I also came over to the US for university, but you had the language barrier to contend with as well. But I want people listening to kind of understand how overwhelming and scary it is to come into this new place with new cultures, be away from family. How did you deal with that in moments that you missed home? And did you have any moments in that first year, at least? I don't know about your experience, but in mine, a lot of people went home every weekend. And it did feel kind of hard at times to be the one left behind, or during holidays. And yes, people welcomed you in and took you in their families. But how did you handle the moments that were a bit of a struggle with missing family and missing home?
So I'm going back a little bit to when I was in high school. I mean, I was used to going to school for 3 months without seeing my family, right? And then also, when I started running, I kind of moved away from my family to go live with a different family so that I can get better access to training. So in a way, I was kind of used to not being close to my family all the time.
Yep.
And also, knowing that I was one of the very few people from my community to come here, it was an opportunity, that you could never turn down. It was not like we knew so many people who were coming here and going back home.
Yeah.
And so from my family's perspective, this was a great opportunity. Of course, we didn't even know that it was like school was going to be hard or that there wasn't really that much money to be made. We thought, once you get to America, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be able to support yourself. You're going to support your family. Basically, you're going to be super independent, which is kind of somehow true. I mean, like as a student athlete, you get a stipend.
Yeah.
It's not enough, but it's more than, you've ever had, at least for me anyway, because I didn't have any money. But then the other thing that really happened that kind of helped me a lot is that when I got here in Iowa State, we also had Kenyans who were going to school at the same time, and it was student athletes, one of them being Betsy Saina, and I lived with Betsy and her now husband, and then another Kenyan guy, and then there were other 2 Kenyan guys in the team too. So like we kind of lived together, and so like even though people were going home, like we didn't even know that people were going home because this was our home. But the other thing nice. Too is, like, how you mentioned earlier, like when you met me, you were surprised by how welcoming I was. And I was talking to you, whereas like your experiences with other Kenyans is like maybe they're together. That's how it was for us at the time. You know, it was like you were just in this small bubble, small group, and you didn't really sort out that many relationships with other people or experiences. And so like, it was like, okay, there was 5 of us and we were friends and like, we didn't explore what was happening out. So like, we didn't even like realize that people were going home, like not immediately. Anyway, I think it took me about a year to even like realize that, which is kind of interesting, but I did miss home. I, lucky enough at the time, the student athletes that were there, they helped me, to get like a cell phone and stuff. And so I was able to talk to my family. I used to talk on the phone a lot. Oh my God. I think I took every night. I used to buy a lot of calling cards, which is interesting because these days I actually don't talk on my phone that much. Like I could go a whole day without talking on the phone unless if I'm calling my partner. But other than that, I don't even feel like wanting to talk. And I'm like, what happened?
Well, you're getting interviewed on so many podcasts right now. Maybe that's part of it. You're getting it all out in one intense go. But that is interesting, definitely. Especially as you are a talker. I would think you'd be someone who was on the phone all the time. But no.
It's interesting, but no, I don't do that anymore. Like I talk, okay, like it's almost like when I am with people, when I'm talking to someone, I can talk your ear off. But then sometimes like I don't even seek out like wanting to talk to people anymore. It's like, I'm like, I'd rather just not do that. I'll just watch a movie or do something else. Like, it's almost like talking is becoming a chore. But when I actually get started, I'm like, I can't believe I stopped doing this. I love this.
I think we can all relate to that actually. And it's the way that we live right now. It's so easy to get that kind of quick fix of social media or just kind of reading something and feel like you're communicating with someone, even though it's totally one-sided and you're not. But then, as you said, you get reminded of it and you're like, oh, that was amazing. It's like, I don't know if you've had this experience when you've got to give someone a call, like a friend who you haven't spoken to in months, and you're kind of like, oh, I'll do it later. And it's not that you don't want to talk to them, but you just kind of, that it's going to take effort to actually, this sounds ridiculous, to pick up the phone and call them. But then after you do, you're like, oh my God, I love that person so much that I feel so good and just energized. So I think I've definitely noticed that a few times. And
exactly. No, like seriously, you just hit a nail right on the head. And I will say this too, like, this is not just me though. Like, even like, so I have a younger brother here, when he got here, he used to call home a lot. And I also have friends who did that. But I feel like there's something about like, like when I'm talking about the people that have come from Africa anyway. I don't know about other people. Maybe this is common, but like a lot of people come here and they're super excited about talking to people back home, talking to everyone and all that. But slowly you kind of get to this place where you're like, I don't even feel like talking, it becomes a chore to pick up the phone like you're talking about. And so I don't know what it is, but like, seriously, I've seen a lot of people do that. It's like, I don't understand what it is.
Yeah, America sucks us in that way and makes it so that we're so dependent on America we can't leave. So I think we've both been caught by that America bug, which everyone listening understands. And actually, that's quite a good thing to go on to next. So when did you decide you wanted to be a US citizen and why go that route? Like I still have a green card. and I can't quite take the step to become a US citizen. So I'm curious, and I'm sure other people would love to know, what is it about America that made you want to be a citizen as opposed to just having a green card?
So for me, obviously I had my green card for 3 years. And then, so I got my green card in 2012. And, even at the time, I didn't even think about becoming a citizen. Like, first of all, when I was on my way here, I didn't think about the possibility of staying in America. I was like, I'm just going to go get my education and go back home. But then, as time went by, and this is 2009, 2010, 11, 12, I got my green card. And then, I feel like I was super entitled when I first got here. I feel like, with my running, I was talented. I wasn't running very well, and I was super out of shape, and I really struggled to get my fitness back and to get to a point where I was racing and winning races properly. And I went to a school, say like Iowa State, where we had Lisa Cole at the time. We had Betsy Sina. We had a really strong team. And so I wasn't the star or anything. But then I felt like when I moved to Wichita State in 2011, things changed, I felt I had this sense of these people are embracing me. And I I started losing that entitlement and becoming more appreciative of the people around me and what people were doing for me. And I got involved more with the community and stuff. And over time, I realized that, for example, even a simple thing as having a full ride scholarship is not a right, it's a privilege. There were so many people or kids in our team that were busting their butts off, to be on the team. They didn't even have any scholarship. For me to see that and realize that, I wouldn't be able to afford my education without this scholarship. I felt like, okay, I was beginning to kind of realize that, oh, America is a good place, I'm beginning to get some really good opportunities. And, as time went by, I saved a little bit of money, started helping my family here and there. And eventually when the time came, to get my citizenship, I was like, no, I'm going to go for this because, okay, as a green card holder, there was a few things that I couldn't do. Like, for example, I couldn't vote or I couldn't represent the USA, in any competition. And those are the things that I wanted to do. I was like, I would like to be able to vote, if I'm going to live here in America, because I saw myself as somebody who is going to want to stay here for a long time. I felt like this will be the place for me to establish my life. Because back home, that would be my family's home, my mom and dad's home. I don't have any property there. I don't own anything there. And in my culture, actually, a woman is expected to, say, if you got married, you know how they say you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do. You get married, in America, and then you become American. You stay there and you do what the Americans do. And so for me, it was also okay, I don't really have anything back home except my parents' home. And I don't think I will go and live there forever. I would love to have a second home there and stuff. But I just felt like most of my life was going to happen here. And therefore, getting my citizenship and being able to compete for USA and, being able to vote was something that was really compelling to me. And I was like, no, I'm going to get it. I don't know. I don't know if that
that's
answers
a really
the question
good
or not.
explanation. No, it definitely did. And, that the voting aspect is the one thing that bothers me that I can't do right now, that I wish I could. But
yeah,
the US thing, competing for the US, I think for you, it's a little bit different with you being the level you were at. Whereas when I kind of pulled away from running, I still wasn't really even a contender to make even a US team for kind of a lower event. So yeah, I think maybe that's part of it for me. But it was interesting. Have you ever spoken to anyone else about what you said about kind of feeling entitled at the beginning? Because I very much felt the same way. I came in kind of with this swagger my first year thinking that oh, they've brought me in, I've got everything paid for. And then over time, I kind of same as you realized, wow, I'm coming out of this education with a degree and I didn't pay basically anything for it. And I get all these opportunities and, you get so many things that you wouldn't get, or I wouldn't get at home, you wouldn't get at home. So that's definitely my experience as well. But have you mentioned that to anyone else? Has anyone else said they had that similar kind of entitlement at the beginning?
Surprisingly, I actually haven't asked that question. I don't know why. I haven't thought about it. I think it depends. I think there are some people who are still super entitled. And I feel like one of the things that we are like for example, for me, anyway, when like feeling entitled was, okay, I may not have been the best like athlete in my team, but I was one of the best. And so I think that kind of gave me this entitlement of, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm the best. So therefore I deserve to get this. This is my right to get this. This is my right to get this. Like I shouldn't do this and that. Like, but like over time, you're like, wow. And then I look at people now, like for example, my partner Tim, like he's a physician assistant. He has a good job, but because he had to take student loans, to go to medical school, he's still paying for that.
Yeah.
And I see things like that now, and I'm like, oh my God, I am so lucky. Yeah. Like, and then recently, like I kid you not, but recently I just realized that some of the interest rates in student loans are very, very high. I don't know why, but I always thought that interest rates on student loans are very low. But I was told, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Really? That doesn't make any sense. And so like, I think I'm especially even like now I'm getting more and more appreciative of the opportunities that I got as a student athlete. And now though, because I have my brother going to school, I tell him these things. I'm like, I want you to realize and understand that it's a luxury you have.
Yes.
It's a privilege you have, and you should use it well, because again, like, we talked about being entitled. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that. And so I'm grateful that I was able to realize that. And I want people who are, behind me to know that, to understand that. I feel like it's my responsibility to educate them on that, to make them understand that it's not a right, it's a privilege.
Yes, so true. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. Okay, so you have talked a lot on other places about the impact of your idol, Tagala Laroupe. That's how you say your name? Or
Tekla Laroupe.
Okay. For people listening, it doesn't, and she won the New York City Marathon. Is that correct?
Yes, she was actually the first African woman to win New York City Marathon.
Okay, yeah. So you've talked about her a lot, but not necessarily that people listening are going to have been the first African or even anyone to win the New York City Marathon. But as runners, you mentioned the impact you feel, or the responsibility you feel you have to people coming up behind you. But I would argue that everyone listening right now has younger people coming up behind them who may be looking to them, kids of their own, nieces, nephews, family, friends, people just around their community. So I'd love for you to say something, or, give some thoughts to people of how much having that kind of runner role model, or having, I don't want to say an idol, maybe it wouldn't quite be an idol if the person listening feels like, I'm just an everyday runner, but tell us about the impact that someone can have on you at a young age if you lead them down the right path.
Yeah, I think that having a role model is an important thing, because when kids grow up, like they could have a lot of passions of what they want to do. Some might not even have any passion at all. But knowing someone or having someone guide you, or, like if you met someone who made an impact in your life, I think that can lead you in a really good track. You can ask questions of how this person got to this place, and, what were some of the challenges that they were able to go through. And for me, like, knowing, how my community was at the time, and Tekla is, of course, much older than me, and knowing some of the, some of the barriers that she had to overcome, some of the challenges, for example, being forced to get married, and her saying no because she wanted to go to school and she wanted to pursue her running. Those are things that I faced, but it wasn't as bad as hers. And so knowing that she had it, harder than me, but anyway, she was able to overcome it, gives me hope, gives me confidence, of wanting to pursue my goals. And when you talk about, young kids, for example, it doesn't necessarily have to be like idolizing somebody who is not a pro athlete. It could be their parent. But I think for them, seeing that role model, seeing how hard they work, seeing, what they do, to inspire other people, seeing how, you can make an impact in so many ways. Like some people can just be arrogant, because they have this power. They can feel like, because they're powerful, they can use this power to impact others negatively because that's how they feel powerful. But if you can take a moment and share that love for your sport, for whatever it is you're doing, and share it to other people and, tell people some of the challenges you go through. But at the end of the day, it's like if you work hard and if you want it really, really bad, it is possible for that to happen. I think that's an amazing thing. Like for me, I'm glad that I get this running because it gives me a platform to be able to inspire people, which is something that I would like to do anyways. But now that I have the running, it gives me a bigger platform to impact people. Like, for instance, if I go back to my village now, a lot of kids can say that I went to college, I lived in this environment just like any of them. It was harsher time during my time than it is for them, but nonetheless, they still have challenges that they have to go through. And they can say that I went through that and I succeeded. I am where I am right now. I'm able to come back and, give them advices, even like tell them what it is like living in America. And then they say that I'm able to help my family, like we're just finishing up building a 4-bedroom house for my mom, and just being able to do that for your family. I think it inspires a kid who may not have otherwise, wanted to do that because they feel like, okay, my dreams are valid as long as I work hard and ask questions if I don't know what's happening, and I can ask that person to guide me.
Yeah. I
think that's just powerful.
So true. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, it doesn't have to be someone who's a pro runner. Many people, to those of you listening, many people in your lives could be looking up to you, seeing you compete at local races or seeing you get out every morning to go on your run, and it inspires them. So I just wanted to kind of remind people that everyone, that you're having an idol or having someone to look up to can make such a big difference on a child's life. And you talking about Tegla was kind of the perfect example of that. So wanted to bring that across. So jumping forward, you graduated from Wichita State, ended up, we're kind of skipping a lot here, but at Northern Arizona Elite in Flagstaff. And then can you tell us about kind of the moment that you were there, that you were in Flagstaff, Arizona, and you thought, I made the right choice. This is the place for me?
Yeah, so when I graduated from Wichita State and moved to New Mexico, I'm just going to take you back. My first couple of races went really, really well because I graduated in the summer. But then the following spring, things didn't go well. And I thought I made the wrong decision of, coming to Santa Fe. I wanted to move back to Kansas. But then I was like, okay, give yourself a little bit of time. And sure enough, things did turn around and I started running really, really well. My training in New Mexico with my coach and Caroline Rotich, actually. So when we saw you in 2015, Caroline and I were training partners. In fact, we were even living together. I lived with her for like a year, and she's one of the sweetest people there is around. And so like we had a really good training going, and she ended up winning Boston Marathon that 2015. So it's like we had a really good thing going in terms of training and all that, but I just didn't have the support, like financial support that I knew I would be able to get if I joined, like say a training club like Northern Arizona Elite. And so really one of the main reasons why I joined Northern Arizona Elite was just the support, like financial support. And of course, again, like they had a really good training mantra and they were doing well. And I knew that with my self-drive, it didn't really matter where I was. Like I knew that as long as I put in the work and I reminded myself why I made this move, that it was going to be the right move. And sure enough, I got there and I just continued to train very hard and started racing. And, my results was reflective of what I was doing. And then I knew, I made the right choice. And it wasn't just like I was racing now and I was being compensated for what I actually was working hard for. Way better than the situation that I had before. And I definitely know that I made the right choice.
Oh, so good. And it has been amazing for so many of us watching your journey, kind of seeing the sisterhood of the women at Northern Arizona Elite. And it's just been such a special thing to see. And you've clearly got an amazing group going on there. And then going into the trials, because, I'm going to spend a lot of this episode talking about things beyond the trials. As it has been covered a lot for you. But, you won lots of races kind of over the coming years, placed high in many. But this year winning the 2020 marathon trials, it seemed like the running world kind of saw you as a contender to make the team, but maybe not too many expected you to win. So did any part of you going into that race kind of have a chip on your shoulder? Like, I'm going to prove myself, or were you not even allowing yourself to kind of go there and think that?
Oh, I feel like I've always had a chip on my shoulder, honestly. And I think this is probably why I've been able to do well. Like one thing that I want to mention is, so I got my citizenship in April of 2016. Mm-hmm. Of course, the marathon trials had already passed, and then I was very, very fit going into the 10K trials, the track trials. I actually thought I was going to be in that team. And, I was really fit. Like I'm telling you, the workout that I did, my last workout I did before that, I was running so fast. Mm-hmm. Like I was running a lot of 800s in under 220s. Like I think I was running 217, 218, which was something, and that was like at 5,000 feet of elevation. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I went to that trials, and of course things didn't go as planned, and I was very heartbroken. But now looking back, though, I feel like going to the 2016 trials and not making the team really humbled me. Yeah. And it prepared me for 2020, because I feel like now I am so much more grateful that I made the team. It meant so much more to me than it would have if I had made the 2016 trials. And then to go to this race where, for the first time, like the Americans marathoning was like the deepest it ever had been. Mm-hmm. And to make a team, not only to make a team, but to win a race when you know that the competition is very, very legit, it's even that much better, And so for me, yes, I knew that there were like at least 10 women who were very strong. Some of them are way stronger than me, but I knew that, my training leading up to it, had been going really well. My head was in a really good place. Like all around in my life, relationship-wise, everything was just pointing to the right direction. Like I didn't have anything in my life that was lacking behind. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that I had this. And of course, I had determination. I seek out every help that I could get to make sure that I was prepared for this race, to give it everything I had. Yeah. And it came out really beautifully. And, yes, a lot of people may have said, or maybe I may have thought I might be a contender, maybe a very slim chance, but not to win. But you know what? Again, when you have so many people that are better than you or better than that person that you're rooting for, I don't blame them, It's just that. And also I feel like I'm still getting better. Like every marathon that I do continues to get better. And so I think it was only logical that this was my best marathon, like in terms of racing, yet. And I feel like I still have a lot more in me. So I don't know. Yeah, like some of the people probably in that race might have shown their best marathons. But for me, I hadn't gotten there yet. And I feel like I haven't gotten there yet. And so I was just continuing to get better, and people hadn't seen this, kind of performance from me, and it was bound to happen.
Friends, you've probably heard me saying over the past few months that I am currently taking 3 months off from working while I enjoy time with my new baby. Now, please make sure I stick to this. If you see me doing things work online, that is time for you to get in touch with me, say, hey, what are you doing online? Now, I will let you know my assistant, Amber, is going to be taking over some things for me. Some things I have prepared ahead of time. But if you notice that it seems to be very real time, please let me know, because I promised myself I would take 3 months off, and I need to be able to stick to that. Now, that being said, there is one thing that I'm continuing to do during this time. Not these podcasts. These podcasts were recorded ahead of time. You've got these interviews to enjoy. There will not be a break in episodes during this time. And I'm really thankful for guest host Sarah Crouch for taking over some of those. But the one thing that I am going to be doing during this time is writing my email newsletters on a Monday. Now, there's over 7,000 of you already signed up for these emails. I know you love them. I love seeing your replies come in every week. And you can sign up at tinamuir.com/subscriber. That's tinamuir.com/subscriber. All it is kind of an update, something I'm thinking about for the week, something that I'm appreciating, and it really makes you think. I love that I have the ability to get into people's heads and really make a difference. And then at the bottom, I give some things I'm enjoying, some updates, just some things that you may have missed throughout the week that I would have shared. And it's just something that's very kind of friend to friend. It just feels like I'm emailing you just to kind of let you know my updates. And I would love for you to be a part of the 7,000 other runners who are on this list. You can go to tinamuir.com/subscriber. That's tinamuir.com/subscriber to sign up, and I will see you every Monday.
every marathon that I do continues to get better. And so I think it was only logical that this was my best marathon, like in terms of racing, yet. And I feel like I still have a lot more in me. So I don't know. Yeah, like some of the people probably in that race might have shown their best marathons. But for me, I hadn't gotten there yet. And I feel like I haven't gotten there yet. And so like I was just continuing to get better, and people hadn't seen this, kind of performance from me, and it was bound to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I mean, for me, seeing you, I was at the New York finish line when you came in, and you'd had 6-8 weeks of training last November, which was just amazing that you ran a 2:28, 2:29.
Yep.
Yeah. And that kind of, I was like, wow, like there's a lot more to come there. And it's really cool kind of see it coming together. But yeah, I agree with you. I think you're far from the best yet. And, running alongside Molly Seidel when you both took off, I had her on the podcast just a few weeks ago, and she said that she doesn't think the race would have played out as well as it had it been someone else, someone who was less supportive than her. So, I mean, that takes a lot of kind of courage and belief in yourself to support and encourage someone who was challenging you for the win in a race where there were such high stakes, especially someone who has never done it before, because we all know when you do your first marathon, you think, oh, can't be that bad. And then it is. Well, I definitely thought that for sure. So, what gave you that inner confidence to be able to continue to support Molly and know that you could still do your best race while supporting her in the meantime?
I think for me, it was like, okay, the stakes were very high in this race. Yet you also know that in a marathon, anything will happen. Mm-hmm. And it goes back again to the appreciation that I have, for everything that happens to me, being where I was and having this woman who is incredible and she's never done a marathon before. My instincts automatically went to, okay, you got to help each other. You got to support her. You got to let her know that, you are there to support her. Because again, she's worked really, really hard to get to that point. And it would have been very mean of me. I don't think I would have ever lived with myself if I broke away from her and left her, to fall apart, and she would have finished 10th, or maybe she wouldn't have finished the race. I never would have lived with myself, because I knew that at any given point when you're running and you know that somebody is here to help you or support you, chances are you can persevere more. And I watched the 2016 trials. I watched Shalene Flanagan and Amy Graf support each other. I'm almost 100% sure that if Amy wasn't there and Shalene felt the way she did, I don't think she would have finished that race if somebody else who was wanting to beat her and break her was running with her. And so, like for me and Molly, I know that the best way for both of us to make the team was to support each other. And, don't get me wrong, she also helped me, because I think that if I was running by myself, I probably would have ran a lot slower, and maybe, who knows, I might have even gotten cut. So I think that it was a mutual sort of benefits, like I was supporting her and she was supporting me. And that was just amazing. Like, it makes me so happy to know that we both did that and we made the team together. And I cannot wait, for the world to get back to normal. So hopefully Molly Seidel can come back to Flagstaff and train, and maybe we can share a couple runs together and actually talk about what happened, during that race.
Yeah, you're probably getting these kind of indirect conversations together through podcasts and other methods of like that, like me saying she said this and he and she said that. So yeah, I look forward to hearing that time too. And do you feel like you would have done the same thing had it been anyone on that kind of, let's say 15 women who kind of had a chance?
I think knowing who I am, maybe, but then again, maybe if it was someone else, like who I felt like they weren't like supportive of me, maybe I wouldn't have. Actually, I think, if I'm being honest, I think that if it was somebody else who was very, very experienced and somebody that I've like never shown that much support for me, and somebody I felt like they were there to beat me and didn't care about how I performed, I probably would have tucked in behind them and just let them do the work. Saying that, okay, we still have like 5-6 miles, so I'm going to let this person do the work. But because it was Molly, and I was just like, no, it's my job. It's me to I need to do my part to make sure that we both get there at the finish. So I think it would have been a little different if it had been somebody else. But again, it depends on which person though.
And how they were
it depends on
treating you.
who, because yes. Because if they were there and they were trying to increase the pace significantly, for making me feel like I can't handle it, then I would have just had to tuck in behind them.
Yeah.
But with Marley, I think we kind of fed off of each other. Like if I felt like she was, struggling, I would look, across to see how her face looked. And if I felt like she was struggling, I would be like, okay, press, just continue running this pace. And impressively, we were pulling away.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And thank you for your honesty there. And it's not just Molly because she was this inexperienced runner who you had got to know a little bit, but you've also shown, you've done things like that. We've seen it in other races in the past with your teammate. I remember definitely Steph, I definitely remember seeing or reading that you had kind of yelled to her a few times to keep up with you and to keep fighting. But speaking of that, you talked about the heartbreak of knowing that you made it, but your teammates didn't. Was that difficult for you over the weeks following to kind of, bring it up to them without feeling like you were rubbing salt in the wound? Because, you care about them and they care about you and they want to be happy for you. But obviously there is that little part of heartbreak for them as well. But how did you kind of negotiate talking to them about the experience and how kind of excited you were?
I think actually because of what followed immediately after that with the coronavirus, I don't think we've sat down and talked about that experience. I think probably most of what they've heard of how I feel and all that has been through, interviews like what we are doing right now.
Yeah.
But Stephanie, Kellen, and I have not been in this same place at the same time to talk about this. Now, when we got back to Flagstaff, Stephanie and the two Scots and a couple other people and I went to a karaoke bar and we had a lot of fun, but it had nothing to do with the race. So, But yeah, it was really hard, knowing that, those women worked very, very hard to get to where they are. They are the reason why I met that Olympic team. I wouldn't have been able to handle those workouts by myself. Mm-hmm. Somebody like Steph, for instance, every time, whenever we were doing our workout, and she felt like I was struggling, she would be like, Aliphine, just tuck in behind, I'll take this one. Even when she was struggling. And I'm like, she worked really, really hard. She overcame a lot, that was the best training she'd ever had in her whole life. And, it sucks, especially to see how close she was, to making the team. Like I watched the video. I've actually now watched it 5 times at the race again. And it's like she was closing. Like I think it's almost like if she had about a half a mile, I think she might have gotten it. Like if she had a mile, half a mile, she might have gotten it. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that she came so close to that really sucks. And then you talk about Kellen, Kellen ran 26.2 miles and came 8th place with a stress fracture. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, seriously? Mm-hmm. How is that even possible? And so knowing some of the things that my teammate had to go through and how close they were breaks my heart, because it's like, how different would have the results been, if, things would have gone perfectly, how different would it have been? But at the same time, I try to be conscious when I celebrate mine. It's like, I want to celebrate it, but I also don't want to rub it on them. And I remember, for example, in 2018, when Steph and I ran the 10K champs, and she kind of beat me towards the last, the last home stretch. And I was like, you go, girl. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I wanted her to win and I was very happy for her, but it still wasn't there was disappointment in me, especially when I crossed the finish line. I was very disappointed in myself, but I was also happy for her. And I never felt like she rubbed it on my face. And so for me, I always try to, still show my appreciation and how happy I am, but at the same time, be supportive of the people that, didn't get their dreams realized. Because again, I've been there numerous times and I know it sucks. Oh my God, it really sucks. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to be the last time that I'm going to lose. I mean, I'm going to lose in future, and I just need to remember how special this was, so that when I do lose in the future, and I see other people celebrating, I just need to realize and stop feeling too emotional about it, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think you've done a beautiful job. I mean, all three of you, of kind of balancing that line of saying, hey, I'm disappointed with whatever race it is, but I'm so happy for my teammate. And, I think you've done a really good job. And especially because, I mentioned this in the episode with Molly, that you definitely were not given the kind of respect and coverage that you deserved in many ways after that trials. And it really irritated, I know a lot of the running community that you weren't celebrated in the way you should, but you still took the time to, celebrate your teammates and what they had done and how much they have given to you. And again, that kind of goes back to that thing of you saying things always kind of work out for you. Well, I believe that's the good that you keep giving out into the world. So, I think you managed that just beautifully with how you're able to help others, but also kind of celebrate yourself, which you should be. So since then, a lot has changed, which is obviously unfortunate. Olympics being postponed to 2021. Thankfully, they're going to still honor your spot, but there's more to it than just, I'll train another year. And firstly, you were going to go see your family in April, your first time in 3 years. Your partner, Tim, was going to come with you for the first time. Now, I've never gone more than 18 months away from home, but that was really, really hard for me at that time. So for most listening, it's difficult to know what it feels like not being able to go home and visit where you're from. As here in the US, people can easily go home pretty much whenever they want. So tell us about some things that you do find difficult, and how do you get through those moments of missing family, or like this example that you had this trip planned and you were so excited for it and it was kind of taken away from you. How do you get yourself through those moments?
I think it's harder now because actually our trip was supposed to happen either tonight or tomorrow night. Because the plan was
for this.
I know. No, it's okay. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, geez, it would have been so cool if I was getting ready to board my flight and head to Kenya now. It's hard, not having seen family for that long, and it would have been extra special to go see them now, especially after achieving the biggest dreams of my running career. I wanted them to be excited and see how excited I am. And my parents, of course, are getting older. My dad had a lot of issues this last year. He was sick, and things like that makes me feel like I need to be able to see my family, because if something happened, God forbid, I will never forgive myself for being away for so long and not being able to see my family, and something happened. One of my brothers, my dad's brother, my uncle, passed away last summer. And, I saw him briefly when I was home, but a part of me wished that I had spent more time with him. But then again, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I saw him. And so, I miss home very much, and it sucks that I don't get to go, because again, when you look at this virus, and the fact that we are not able to go anywhere, this would have been the perfect time for me to be in Kenya, because I don't have to be in Arizona with my teammates. It would have been the perfect time for me to be home, because again, everybody in Kenya is home too. It would have been awesome, because I would have been able to see all of my family without them saying they have work to do. But then again, I don't get to go. And Tim was so excited to visit Kenya and see my family, I'll meet my family. And, it's disappointing that we don't get to go. But then at the same time, Tina, it's at least we are healthy, yes, we are away, and I can still talk to my family and they're doing okay. There are people who lost their loved ones to this disease. And so things like that puts a lot of things into perspective. It makes me realize that what I'm going through is difficult, but it's not as difficult as what other people are going through, And beyond that, I'm sure you've read that it wasn't just seeing my family that was affected. Tim and I had talked about, starting a family, and we were so excited about that. And I'm sure you understand that more than any other person, because, you stepped away from the sport because you felt like you weren't happy with it anymore, and you wanted to start a family, and how much joy that brought you. And, for me, I had visualized this time, we already had plans of, okay, when we come back from the trials, I was going to start my prenatals, because that would be about 6 months or so before when we will be starting, trying to start a family and stuff. And so coming from the trials and having accomplished this goal of going to the Olympics, it was so exciting. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm going to have to yeah, I have a plan. And then for that to change really, really quickly, I think that was one of the hardest things that I have had to deal with. And I'm still dealing with it, honestly. Like, it still breaks my heart, like thinking about waiting a year plus, actually. Doesn't make me feel very good or happy about myself. And it's like, I'm getting older, like, I may not, like a year may not make that much difference, but it's just like the plans that you have for yourself and for your family just gets disrupted by something that no one has control over. Yeah, it's disappointing, but at the same time, it's like, what can you do? Like, again, this is not the first time I faced challenges. And, I think you appreciate life more when you go through challenges. And so I was like, I want my kids to know that their mom, like, kept pursuing her goals, like going to the Olympics and giving herself the best shot, that she could ever get. I want to tell my kids these stories, and I want them to be proud of me instead of them saying, oh, our mom gave up, like she didn't want to she didn't want to persevere one more year,
No. And well, one day you can think of it this way, that the children that you do have will be the children that you would only have had this not been pushed back. You would have had two or however many completely different children had the Olympics been when it was. So someday you will be like, I'm thankful that it was these children. But I totally get what you're saying. As you said, I kind of understand that more than most with, for people listening, you may think, well, like you said, what's 1 year? But I remember specifically, Steve and I set a deadline of actually April 2018. And once I set that once we had that date in our head, I couldn't get it out. Like I couldn't. And that's partly why I actually stopped a year ahead of time, because I couldn't get that date out of my head. And it was just like, kind of once you decide, then it's hard to motivate yourself. And I want people to understand that this is not just, I'm just going to train the best I can. Like if you're going to the Olympics or you're training for something really serious, like for me, I said April 2018 as that was the Commonwealth Games. And if I didn't make the Commonwealth Games, the team for Great Britain, then that was going to be it. But it's hard for you having to ramp up and mentally motivate yourself, or it will be in, the end of 2020, the beginning of 2021, knowing that a little part of you is going to be thinking, well, I could have been pregnant right now. So and I see people with their kids and I'm like, oh, they're so cute. My God, I could be getting ready to have mine. And so strangely, like I think there were times actually like before the trials when I was so excited about being a mom that some days I was like, Jesus, I think I'm excited about being a mom more than I'm making the Olympic team. I remember one time we were doing a really big workout and like we were warming up and I was telling Steph and Karen, I'm like, I'm just so excited about being a mom that sometimes I'm like worried about like my commitment to making the Olympic team, like I would call my partner and I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine, like, can you believe like we could be parents this time next year? And it's just that, and now I feel like I shouldn't even talk about it to him, because I'm like, I don't want to do that. It's like, you never know what happens. And that really sucks, like I don't know, it is
a part
hard.
of me, a part of me is like, is it worth chasing these goals and dreams that I have? I mean, I've done so much for myself so far and I've inspired people. Is it time for me to like choose me for once? But like I still have those battles over my head. But I think like we've talked about it with my partner and we just think that, it's the right thing to do. To wait until next year.
Yeah, well, if it was anything other than the Olympics, I think the decision would have been quite different. But, the Olympics is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of dream for most people. And so I think you'll be able to find the strength to put your head down and get to it. And as I said, that will mean that when you do have children, they'll be the children that they are because of that delay as well. But it is tough. And in most situations, I say it's very inspiring to see women like Sally Kipyego having a tough time coming back from having a baby to make the team, or, like Kellen, like Stephanie, both of them, being inspiring mothers. But it's also in this situation kind of hard because it always gives you that, well, maybe I could do it afterwards instead.
Yeah.
Whereas you have to keep your mind focused on the now of like, I've got this opportunity. I've done, the hard work. Now I have to just, get myself fit, be there and enjoy the experience. So my heart goes out to you because that is a tough situation. And I'm sorry to have to bring it up.
Yeah, no, I was going to say one more thing. The other thing, I guess, for me is I know that there's also a chance that I may never come back. You know, we've seen athletes like Kim Smith struggle to the point where she was like, okay, I don't think I can do this anymore. You know, like I've accomplished so much. I just don't want to do this anymore. And so for me, it's like, okay, I want to come back because I'm still young enough. And I know that I have another Olympic cycle in me. And I definitely want to make that next Olympic team. Like also like, if we got to a situation where like it was impossible for me to come back, then I want to know that I gave myself everything I had. I gave myself the opportunity to perform to the best level that I can, and it's fine if I don't come back. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I mean I'm right there. I feel like for me, I achieved the thing that I was happy to kind of walk away from if I never get back. So I definitely feel you there. Mine wasn't the Olympics, but it was, you know, for me that running for my country was enough to be able to walk away. So I totally understand you doing, you know, the thing that you need to do for you. So just wrapping up here, tell us about your resiliency beanies, or do I not even want to mention it? Are you still struggling to keep up with demand?
Yes. Actually, I have, I think right now I'm about 209. Well, no, I'm about 198 orders behind because I reopened my Etsy shop. I reopened my Etsy shop about a week and a half or so ago. And I got myself 271 orders.
Wow.
So far, I have fulfilled about 74 of them. I actually have a few, maybe I'm probably about 180 or so orders behind, but it's been incredible. You know, like last year, I had a stress fracture on my femur last summer, and then I just needed something to do, and I found something with crocheting, and I love crocheting, and I started selling my beanies, and people were enjoying, you know, like to have them because, again, everybody needs a little bit of resilience. And after winning the trials, of course, my store sold out at that time. It sold out at 179 orders. I came home, I fulfilled all of that, and then I reopened the shop. So yeah, like I'm happy. You know, some days are stressful than others because I'm like, oh my God, I have this 200 beanies to make and I need to do this. And then I feel like I don't have enough time, you know, but some days I'm like, no, you don't have to stress yourself with this. But it is really nice because, with what we are going through right now, Tina, even though I can still run, my beanies are still saving me because I can just, you know, wake up in the morning. Like yesterday, I woke up in the morning, I started crocheting until afternoon, and then I went and ran. Knowing that I can still put all my attention into this crocheting thing and I will be able to share those beanies with people who need a lot of resilience makes me very happy. And so I'm grateful that I have this. It's like, it's saving me again. You know, like I don't know what I would be doing with myself if I wasn't crocheting, knowing that I can't go to the Olympics and, you know, I can't have a family like I was planning. I think I would be a lot more stressed out and even probably frustrated.
I'm sure there's such a thing as stress crocheting as well. Like, you know, people do stress knitting, stress crocheting. She could also be doing
I seriously, I think I don't process a lot of my feelings. I just put them into crocheting.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
And it's working so far. It's fine. I'm like, hey, it's fine. I don't want to judge myself yet, but you know, we'll see in future. But it makes me so happy. Like my goal has always been to see so many people wear my hats, and to see people wanting to like order them and like wear them. It makes me very happy.
Yeah. Well, this is not going to come out till July, as I told you. So by the time people are listening to this, it will be July. So hopefully you've caught back up and people can go. I will put a link in the show notes either way, so you can add to Aliphine's back order list, or you can actually buy one straight off the spot. But have you thought about how you would, like, what you would do in the future? Like, have you thought about teaching someone to do it with you, or is the control aspect in you, you know, not going to be able to allow that? Like, what have you thought about for where you could ultimately see this going, or are you only going to do this until you stop enjoying it and then kind of cut it there?
So actually, I've done things different already. So I have a friend of mine who is actually from Boston. She is stuck here in New Mexico because of the quarantine. I had this 50% yarn that was very thick. I can use it to crochet, and she knows how to knit. So I gave it to her, and she made me 40 hats. And so I was able to pay her like a little bit of money to make that. And knowing that, she, like I pay her pretty much half of what I sell the hat for, to make it for every hat. That makes me happy because a lot of people are out of work now. Yes, it may not be a lot, but hey, somebody else is doing it. Like I'm able to help someone else. But in future, what I thought about doing is, I think, because I'm very controlling, but I think what I have decided to do is there's a lot of people, especially in my village, like crocheting does need a lot of time. It needs a lot of dedication. You really need to love doing it, or you need to not have anything else to do. But I thought about like going home and finding those people who are like, underprivileged and teaching them how to make this, and then like having them make as many as possible, have them shipped to me. I will sell it, and maybe, like 50 to 70% of the proceeds will just directly go to them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because again, it will be a good way. Like I've always thought about doing a charity, but I've never like figured out what exactly I want to do. But if I like want to find more market for my hats, I think I'll just go like have a few women in my village, do this. And if they even have different styles, like have them do this, because again, a lot of people in my village, I think, can crochet. And if I can support them a little bit, because even like if I were to like give them $10 per hat, I'm telling you, even like professionals in Kenya, like that have good jobs, don't even make $10 per hour. No, that's a lot.
Oh, and that right there just kind of sums you up perfectly. Always looking to support others, always giving with that big heart of yours. And Aliphine, that just sums you up so nicely. So I want to take this moment to thank you for all that you do, for just the good that you put out into this world. I truly believe you deserve everything that comes to you, with all the good that you bring and all the good that you get in this world. So tell people where they can go find you if they don't already follow you, on social media or website or wherever. I'll put links in the show notes for the beanies as well, but anywhere else?
Yeah, so I am on Twitter at Aliphine Tuliamuk, without a K in the end. And then I'm on Instagram, Aliphine Tuliamuk.
Wait, isn't your Instagram just Aliphine?
Well, I think that's the, what do you call that? The name, but like my full name on Instagram is the handle. Yes. Yeah. And then I'm on Facebook again, Aliphine Tuliamuk. And actually my Twitter and most of the time my Instagram has a link to my Etsy shop.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will put links in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing with us, for just being open and honest, and just this beautiful person that you are. We appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to see what the future has in store for you.
Thank you so much, Tina, for what you're doing, and best of luck with your delivery.
Thank you. My friends, if you have a minute and you could leave a review on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or whatever else podcast player you use to listen to this podcast, or if you would subscribe to this podcast, you will help me get out in front of new runners to make our tribe even bigger and even better. It might not seem like you as one person can make a difference, but really it helps a lot. And it shows me you appreciate the hard work I put in for those. Thank you so much. She's amazing, right? What a human. I love her heart. I love her, just the soul, and how willing she is to help. Since we recorded this episode, I've heard so many other people talk about things that she has done, specifically her going above and out of her way to go think of people, to check in with people, to just give so much love. That woman deserves everything she gets. I'm really, really happy for her that she's had such a good year this year. And I hope, as her year was cut short with what's going on, I'm hoping that we can give her more opportunities to just succeed in the coming years. Now, I just want to take a quick moment to remind you to go check out our sponsor. So Tracksmith is sponsoring this episode. You can get 15% off your order by going to tracksmith.com/Tina Muir. And you could use code Tina. You can also flip it and go to tinamuir.com/tracksmith. And you can see my favorite items there if you have been thinking about it. Now, next week, we are going to be hearing from Kate Landau, who is a 2:31 marathoner. She is a master's runner. She took 15 years, or maybe even 20 years, totally off running, has struggled with a very, very aggressive eating disorder and has managed to find her way back, and just has really inspiring stories. So Sarah is actually the one interviewing her, but I have listened to the episode. I want to give you a warning. If you are working through an eating disorder, this may be a bit too sensitive for you. But for the most part, I think this is a really inspiring episode of what can come from the other side of this. So, friends, I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode with Aliphine. If you did enjoy this episode, please share it. If you put it on your social media, your messages to friends, anywhere that any groups that you were in when you appreciate these episodes, that helps get the word out and that helps me. So thank you so much for doing that. Have a wonderful week, my friends. Remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to our world. I'll see you next Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.